just checking to see if we're live now.
Yeah, it's saying 11 seconds. I think we're good.
Okay, so it's saying we're live on here. Yeah, we're live on Facebook. Just going to check we're live on YouTube. Hopefully we are. Yeah, we're live on YouTube. Perfect. Okay, so this is an impromptu debate. I got called out by some Islamists. They tagged me in some posts where they were gloating about Saddam Hussein firing Scud missiles at
Okay,
Israel.
that was his post. That was his post.
That was his post. Nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
And then Waleed, who's agreed to debate me rather than debate in the comments, we decided to take the debate to Facebook and YouTube so everyone can enjoy or learn the differences of opinion. And so I'm going to read the quote from Waleed, which prompted me to
Okay, no, let's go for the Sunnah thing. Let's go for the Sunnah thing because I was pissed off.
So I just need to frame the debate, Waleed. I'm just going to read out the quotes. This is why I invited you onto the channel.
Perfect,
Every single political leader who supports the military occupation of Palestine will burn. The day will come when Muslims will flood the streets of Israel and will make the streets into rivers of blood and the parliament to ruins. We will behead your leaders in the public squares. So this is a message you just sent me.
Yes.
And for me, that seems pretty extreme. I was advocating for peace between Muslims and Jews, which we're in a generation, we're in a period now, the Abraham Accords, where Muslims and Jews from different nations are building bridges, are coming together to unite as they have done in the past. And under that environment, you've sent a message to me, a Jew. I'd identified myself as a Jewish person. And this is the message you said: we will behead your leaders in the public square.
Yes.
So you're clearly very nervous about revealing who you are. I'm Joseph Cohen. I run the Israel Advocacy Movement. I'm happy for the world to see who I am, Waleed. My first question is, you're indoors, you're in your house. Why are you hiding your identity?
Well, I don't really know how many people are going to be watching, so I'd rather keep my identity covered. And especially because that's not exactly politically correct either. So I'd rather keep it like this. So what we were going to talk about was, you said that you're closer to the Sunnah, and that's not, right? So that's what we're going to talk about. Let's get into it. Why do you think accepting the rule of Israel is the Sunnah for the Palestinians?
Waleed, was Muhammad a man of peace?
He was a man who preferred peace.
Okay, so let's start from that point. He was a man that preferred peace. I approached you and said, Jews today want peace with Muslims. We're in a period, an era, where Jews and Muslims are making...
You said that to me?
No, I mean, this is the context of the conversation. I was quoting, saying, I am closer to the Sunnah than you because I want peace. I want peace, and you want war. You want to behead Jews in the street.
Jewish leaders who are killing Palestinians, yes, who have been for the last 70, 80 years. And before Hamas was ever a thing, by the way. The Irgun existed before Hamas. That's the number one thing, all right? And then the people who were tied to Irgun became the leaders of Israel, all right? Let's not play that game, because here's the deal, right? I used Banu Qurayza and I used Banu Qaynuqa as the reference point for this. What I'm saying is the people, the Palestinians, the Arabs that were living at that time, during the time when the Jews decided, hey, we're going to work with the UN and we're going to take over this land, right? They betrayed the people, their neighbors, and they got the military support and they started taking the land, right?
Wrong. First massacre.
No, they didn't.
First massacre was 1929.
They didn't start a war. They didn't start killing people.
Are you talking about the crazy? Talk today. Don't talk the past, because this is a Jewish.
No. Okay, listen.
You're talking.
I know. The past matters. Okay, the past does matter. So when they started doing that, right, they essentially betrayed their neighbors. They betrayed the Muslims. Yes or no?
You talking, just so I know, you're talking in the time of Muhammad, or you're talking in 1948? I'm talking
right now, in 1948, and then before
okay, so perfect,
as well.
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect.
So they betrayed
the Nebi Musa riots. What were the Nebi Musa riots, Waleed?
Sorry?
The Nebi Musa riots. What were they?
They happened. They went both ways. Okay, they went both ways. That's not the point. The point is
what were they? What were they?
Know. Tell me.
You don't know? Okay. So it's a little history. So in 1920, riots broke out in mandatory Palestine.
Okay.
And the Jews were massacred. 1929, the Jaffa, the Hebron riots against Jerusalem. There were more riots. In 1929, the Jewish community that had lived in Hebron for centuries and centuries and centuries were massacred. Yeah.
Okay.
Long before the Irgun, like we're literally talking long before the conflict you're talking. The very
How many?
first.
What's the count? Tell me the count.
The count of which one? So in the Jaffa riots, 47 Jews were killed. In the Nabi Musa riots, around 5 Jews were killed and over 200 Jews were injured.
So 5 and 47, right? 5 and 47.
In the Palestine riots, the mandatory Palestine riots, when the Hebron, etc., 133 Jews were slaughtered. You got to understand these were very small communities that were living in the region. They were
that's fine. I'm just
that is how the Irgun came into being. But Walid, so the idea that Jews went and colonized the land, which you and I both know the Jews are indigenous to. Jews have always lived there.
Okay, no, let's not do that. They came in.
You just literally quoted you told me that the Romans kicked us out. You literally said that.
Yeah, they did 2,000 years
ago.
So
we agree that the Jews are indigenous.
You guys killed the pagans first. All right, you pissed the pagans off. The Jews pissed the pagans off, and then the Romans came in and they were like, all right, well, you're gonna kill our people, we're gonna kill you too. All right, because it was like 2,000 years ago does not mean that you're native to that land.
Was Dawood Jewish? That's David for the Jewish audience. Was Dawood Jewish?
I'm not talking about those people then. Or Sulaiman alayhi salam, Dawood alayhi salam. Forget about them. We're talking about 1948, are we? Now you're taking it back.
I'm just saying Jews have always lived in the land.
No, listen.
You're running around. You're running away from questions.
I'm not running away from the question. I said Dawood alayhi salam and Sulaiman alayhi salam. Forget about them. I'm talking about 1948. You were asking me if I'm talking about Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, right? And you were going to try to stop me there, but then you're taking us even further back than Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
No, because I said we're indigenous, and you said no, we're not. And so I was just pointing out the prophets that you follow,
the post that you have, one of the posts you have on your page is talking about all these different Jews from different areas, right? You have like African ones, Ethiopian ones, you have Iraqi ones, you have a bunch of different ones, right? So they weren't all living there when it happened, right?
They have the same genetic makeup. They have the same. If you study the DNA tests, they're related to
if we study the DNA test,
they're related to many Palestinian Arabs that live there. Well, this only works if we allow each other to talk.
Yeah. Cool,
so we take turns. We don't talk over each other.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. So the Jews who lived in Morocco, the Jews who lived in Syria, the Jews who lived in Yemen, the Jews who lived in Poland, they shared similar DNA, and we can trace that to the same. We're closer to Palestinians than many other, than say the European communities we lived amongst. So if you go to the DNA studies, it doesn't matter where the Jews were exiled to, wherever they settled, they have similar genetic makeup to Jews from around. Now, undoubtedly, Jews who are living in Morocco, there will have been converts that joined the Jewish people. And so you will find a mixture, but we all have shared ancestry, or most Jews have shared ancestry in most genetic studies that are done.
All right, so let me ask you this.
Jews are as indigenous as many of the Palestinians who remain there, who were originally Jews, converted to Christianity, converted to Islam, and they've remained in that land. There are Palestinians today who separate pieces of dough from their bread, and they don't know why they do that. That's because Jews take a tithe from their bread called the challah. And so Jews and Palestinians are related. Jews and Muslims are cousins. Yeah.
Okay.
And so all I stated was Jews are indigenous to the land. We agree on that. You agree that they were kicked out by the Romans.
Listen. No, we don't necessarily agree on that, because I don't believe that just because you have a 2,000-year-old right to the land that you should be able to come in there and take other people's homes. That's the first thing. Second thing is, you know what? Since you want to play that, let's say next week or the week after, the Aboriginals in the United States get a bunch of military support and start to take over the land of the United States. Let's say they start from California. They have military support now all of a sudden, and they're like, this is our land. And you know what? It's not even 2,000 years. It's actually like 200 years. And they start, and there's obviously civilian casualties, men, women, and children are being killed. Would you say the indigenous are within their rights to do that?
So, Wally, just so you understand,
I'm asking you a question. I'm asking you a question. Yeah.
I'm answering the question directly. I promise you, I'm answering your question. You are advocating that the Palestinians are indigenous to the land and they were kicked out by the Jews, therefore they have a right to return.
I'm saying the Palestinians were living there and they were kicked out of where they were living. It's as simple as that.
And the Jews.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Waleed,
You said I gave you a long time to talk. I gave you a long time. I gave you a long time to talk, right? All right. So when I'm speaking, just give me the time. Step in and out. Okay. I'm saying the Palestinians were living there. They had their homes, and they were kicked out of them. Okay. The biological sort of indigenous thing you're talking about going back 2,000 years, and they all share like 2% of DNA or whatever. Like whatever it is, that doesn't matter. I'm talking about people were living in those places, and they were kicked out because they said that we have an indigenous right 2,000 years old to live there. And the funny thing is, a lot of these things you're talking about, like you can do the DNA studies. I'm sure that they have links between them, right? Like the children of Israel, like sure, there might be, like I'm not even gonna argue that. But the fact of the matter is that when it came to Ashkenazi Jews, it was found that a lot of them had essentially went back to Europeans. All right, like that's not and the fact of the matter is, like, I'll show you. I'll send you the link. Give me one second.
Okay. I tell you what. Let's say you send me the link afterwards. I'm going to show you that almost every study that was done on the Ashkenazis, or the majority of studies, have found common ancestry to the Middle East. They don't have European haplotypes, but we can get into that separate. So I'll just, while you're looking for your link for your study, I'll continue. So you mentioned that the Jews were kicked out. Yeah. Sorry, you mentioned that the Jews kicked out the Palestinians. Today, 20% of Israelis are not Jewish. The overwhelming majority of whom are Arabs.
Yeah. We know that.
Two minutes. I'll listen to you. I'm just going to finish my thought, and then you can respond. There were Jews who lived in that land from time immemorial. Yeah. There were Jews that were living in what you would call the West Bank, what we would call Judea and Samaria. The Jews of Judea and Samaria, the Jews of the old city of Jerusalem, the Jews of Gaza were ethnically cleansed by the Arab armies that invaded. The Arabs, by the way, started the war. You keep saying the Jews kicked them out. The Jews declared our independence. 5 to 7, depending how you count them, Arab armies invaded Israel. Israel defended itself. And in the territories it retained, Arabs remained and have complete equality with Jews. In the territory that Jordan and that Egypt conquered, annexed, certainly in Jordan's case, they annexed the Judea and Samaria. They called it the West Bank. They ethnically cleansed the Jews. They kicked out every single Jew. They enacted a law which banned Jews from being Jordanian citizens. The Palestinians then adopted that law when they invented when the Palestinian nationalism came along. They adopted that law. They banned Jews from being citizens. Yeah. Meanwhile, in Israel, 20% of the population are Arabs. Yeah.
Okay, what's funny? What's funny to me is that I've actually
is the exact opposite of what you're saying.
What's so funny is that, like, I swear I should have just watched yours and Muhammad Hijab's debate before this, because you are saying the exact same things he said then, even though it's been refuted, even though like he showed you like
refuted.
Refuted. It's not like that may have happened later on, but here's the thing, right? Did he ever show you the links for the 1998 like the IDF releases about them going and searching up how many people were in the villages and all of that? Did he give that to you?
No.
He didn't give it to you? All right. You know what? I'm gonna give it to you after this.
You've got my Instagram. You share with me anything, and we can do a repeat of this.
Okay, good.
So let's just Waleed. Simple. You don't need to.
And here's the thing. And here's another thing.
Waleed, let me just ask my question. Just really simple. Yeah. You don't need to go to any archival evidence. We don't need to look at the history books.
We don't have to go there?
Look at the Palestinian population today.
Well,
how many Jews are there?
Why would the Jews Why would the Jews live in an open air prison? Tell me this. Why would they want to live in an open air prison?
My friend from Gaza was kicked out in 1949 by the Egyptians. His family had lived there for centuries.
Oh my God! And he's probably doing way better now in Israel than he would be in Gaza, because Gaza is like half ruins.
Gaza's not half ruins. I recommend. Here's a shout out to a friend. Go on Twitter. Follow Imshin.
No. Wait. So you're declining. You're saying that Gaza is not the world's largest open air prison?
Gaza is not an open air prison.
Okay, all right. Okay, so they're just not allowed to trade. They're just locked in. But it's a friendly detention center. That's what it is? Come on, man. What is this? Every single time there's a conflict between Israel and Palestine. We know this, all right? Palestine.
You're running all over the place. Let's stick with one subject at a time, yeah? We can come back to Gaza, but let's deal with the question of ethnic cleansing, because we have to be able to conclude a thought. Yeah, so it's a simple exercise. How many Israeli Arabs are there, and how many Palestinian Jews are there? Because we're talking ethnic cleansing. Let's go further. How many Jews live in the Arab world today? There used to be around 1 million.
There's
How
not a
many
lot
live
because
there
they
today?
all went to Israel. Why would they not
They all
go to
left it. So
Israel?
why are there still? So Waleed, think about this. Yeah,
There's
there was a
8,000, 9,000.
Waleed, listen. There was a Holocaust in Europe where 6 million Jews were killed. There were way more Jews remained in Europe than in the Arab world. Why would they remain in a land that massacred them? And why would they flee? Sorry, someone's trying to call me. Let me just hang that up. Why would they flee the Arab world? Why would they flee the Arab world, but not flee the literal lands that massacred them?
Is that your question? Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. Because the Germans lost the war. The Holocaust was over.
No, Eastern Europe, Poland, there were massacres after World War II. There were massacres of Jews in Europe after World War II.
Okay.
So why would they remain there but leave the Arab world if they weren't forced out? Or weren't under such persecution, unless they were either under such persecution that it was scary. They left behind billions of dollars worth of property. They left behind land 6 times the size of Israel. Why would they leave? Why would they leave all that behind willingly if they weren't ethnically cleansed? You're speechless. We can't see you because you're hiding, but you're speechless.
No, here's the thing. I love how you're just completely switching it around. We're not sticking on.
You were talking ethnic cleansing. You brought up ethnic cleansing. I'm responding to your charge.
My God, no, they were not. They left because they wanted to. Why would they? Look, here's the thing.
Why would they leave behind billions of dollars? Why would they leave behind?
Where are they getting this from?
Pardon? From literally any historian of the Lynn Julius. Read Lynn Julius's book. It's fantastic. There you go. Uprifted. Please go and read that book.
Okay, so how does this justify? So how does that justify them taking the Palestinians' land?
So
people that are living there. How does that justify?
Let's come back. Okay.
Yeah. How does that justify?
Okay. So
I'm just taking it at face value.
Okay. So we agreed that the Jews were ethnically cleansed.
We're not agreeing. I'm saying that. You're saying
you don't have an answer is the same as agreeing.
No, I'm not conceding it though, because I don't know. I'm gonna look into it myself. Because what I see here right now is that you're using something that happened on one side to justify what happened to Palestine in the 1948 onwards, and even before 1948. That's what I see here. And it's really like sort of fallacious form of kind of like, okay, because they were done that here, that means that the Palestinians should be subject to this. Right,
but
and
that's
it's not
your entire argument. Your entire argument is based on the premise that you incorrectly believe that the Jews ethnically cleansed the Arabs from their own land.
Look, here's the thing.
So we're dealing with who was ethnically cleansing who, and we've demonstrated that there is an Israeli Arab population.
I'm not covering the entire Arab world. Yeah.
We've demonstrated that there is an Arab population in Israel. Yeah, they have mosques. They have freedom of religion. The only people who can pray, for instance, on Ha Habayit, in Haram al-Sharif, Masjid al-Aqsa, today Jews can't pray there. There's a few days in a year where we're allowed up on our festivals, and even then, only a tiny number of Jews are allowed up. Meanwhile, Muslims pray there. Millions of Muslims pray there every year. Yeah, Israel is a place of freedom of religion for its Arab citizens. As we, Alhamdulillah, Baruch Hashem.
How did you get it? How did you get it?
So perfect. So the Ottoman Empire, there's never been a Palestinian state, yeah? We can agree there's never been a country called Palestine.
The area was called Palestine.
Just a question, yes, no.
No.
Do we agree
there was
a country called?
Yes, there was. And even in, you know what?
Who was its ruler? Who was the ruler of Palestine?
They found coins that had Palestine written on there as well. One side was an Arabic,
Who was the ruler of Palestine? Name a king of Palestine. Name an emir of Palestine. What were Palestine's borders? What was the currency of Palestine? What was the currency of Palestine?
Whatever the coin was called, I don't know, but I've seen it.
Simple question, Waleed. Name one Palestinian leader.
Come on, man. Don't try to pull me into like, oh, Palestine wasn't its own sovereign state.
You just said there was a country called Palestine.
No, yeah? I'm saying that the land was called Palestine and the Arabs lived there.
Why was it called Palestine? Why was the region called Palestine?
Jews were kicked out.
Pardon? Who were the original Palestinians? Who were the Philistines? Who were they?
What do you mean, the original ones?
Yeah, the Pelishtim. Who were they?
The people who showed up there, man. Like Dawood, Sulaiman, Ali Sam,
like
the followers of the Torah.
Where do we get the name Palestine from?
Didn't the Romans name Palestine in English?
But why did the Romans rename it Palestine?
Well, after they kicked the Jews out.
No, but why that name? Why not any other name? It was named after the traditional enemies of the biblical enemies of the Jewish people. It was renamed Palestine to humiliate them. In English, it's Philistines, yeah? The Philistines were Greek, mate. They were Greeks. They weren't Arabs. They weren't Jews. They were Greeks. It actually means invaders. The Hebrew for the word is invaders. And that's the word that the Romans used to humiliate the Jews. It stretched from Egypt to Turkey, yeah? Going way into Jordan and Syria, yeah?
Okay, so how does this
Palestinians
how does this justify them being kicked out of their homes?
Okay, perfect. So all I said, Walid, I said, really simple. I said there wasn't a country called Palestine. Yeah, it existed in different khulafa, in different caliphates, Christian kingdoms, many kingdoms existed there. It was never a country called Palestine. So let's go to the last caliphate that controlled the land.
How does this all justify?
It's gonna all tie together if you allow me to explain.
Okay, cool.
So the Ottoman Empire, the Ottoman Caliphate, was the last caliphate to control that region. Within the Ottoman Caliphate, there were Jews, Christians, Muslims, Druze, many different people of many different backgrounds. When the Ottomans sided with the losing side in World War I, they lost the territory. Yeah. So we can agree. So now you've got a power vacuum. All the land that the Ottomans used to control.
The British promised it not. Okay.
And I'm just going to answer your question, and then you can respond. Yeah. All the land that the Ottomans controlled then went into the British, the French, and they decided that they were going to give the indigenous people of that land the opportunity to create a state. So Britain got what was called Mandatory Palestine. Now, as I'm sure you know, because you're a history buff, Mandatory Palestine included what you would call Israel, or what the international community would call Israel today, Gaza, Judea and Samaria, the West Bank. But it also included Jordan. Britain was awarded that territory by the League of Nations on the condition they honored the Balfour Declaration and create a Jewish national home there. The first thing the British did when they took that land, when they got the land, which was supposed to create a Jewish state because Jews are indigenous there and had always lived there alongside Muslims, Christians, the first thing they did, they gave the majority of the land to an occupier. Who was the occupier? A Saudi family, an Arabian family, the Hashemites, Jordan, nothing to do with the people. So the people who got 75% of the land were invaders. No, not invaders, but certainly occupiers. Yeah. The Palestinian Arabs who you're talking about, the people who lived on the land, they make up the majority of Jordan today. And clearly the majority of the Palestinian
the refugees that have escaped from there, yes.
So what then happened was, what was remaining was supposed to be a Jewish state. But then we broke into the civil wars we were just describing, like the Nebi Musa riots, the Jaffa riots, the Hebron massacre. All these riots broke out because the Arabs did not want to share the land with the Jews. They wanted all the land to be an Arab state.
Okay, so they weren't living together before that? Is that what it is?
So no, that's not what I said. So before Jews wanted to get until Jews wanted autonomy, until the Jews started to liberate themselves so they could live as equals, as brothers alongside their Arabs, but their Arab cousins, until they started doing that, they lived under. They were the dhimma. They were as you know well, you're a Muslim.
Yes.
Yeah, and so the Jews thought, we don't want to live as dhimma anymore. We don't want to pay the jizya. We want to live as equals. We want to have our own state. And we're fine with the Arabs having their state. We're fine living with Arabs in our state. But we want national liberation. We want autonomy. We don't want to depend on honorable caliphs coming to our rescue, honorable kings or rulers in Europe coming to our rescue when tyrants rise up and oppress us. We want to be able to defend ourselves.
Yeah, and we're going to do that by kicking you guys out of here, out of your homes. And we're going to get the international support.
So we've established, here's a great example, yeah? You would say someone living in Hebron is a settler, yeah? A Jew living in Hebron is a settler. The Jews were massacred in either 1517 or 1519. I always get the two confused. When the Ottomans first came into and conquered Israel, they massacred the Jewish community of Hebron. So there's at least 500 years of unbroken Jewish presence. In 1948, the Jews were kicked, in 1929, they were kicked out of Hebron. In 48-49, the laws were enacted to prevent them from ever going back. When Israel defeated the next wave of Arab attacks in 67, they liberated the land and they allowed Jews to return back to a land.
I love how selective all this is, and I'm really enjoying it. But what I'm going to do after this is I'm going to just go back and I'm gonna watch that video again, the Muhammad hijab video, because that was pretty golden. And you said the exact same thing you said then, and it was just completely turned over on your head. I am not someone that studied this forever. I didn't even think it was gonna be you. If I knew it was gonna be you, I would have spent that 20 minutes going back and watching the Muhammad hijab video. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. Let me tell you something. All right. You can't use other people's sufferings to justify some other people's sufferings, right? You can't use it. You can't go both ways with it. You can't say this happened, so that means this is okay. All right. Like, you got to stop doing that, first of all. Okay. Like, if you don't accept the fact that Israel was built off of these things, you're never going to find the ground. Right. And when I said, well, and you were talking, let's go back to the Sunnah thing. Right.
Okay.
You were saying that this is the Sunnah, right? It would be the Sunnah to accept Israel's rule, is what you're saying.
So I'm saying it would be the Sunnah for Jews and Muslims to try and make peace.
Okay, no.
And you're saying it isn't.
Your way of making peace, the method that you want is by Muslims accepting the Israel's rule, right?
Not accepting living alongside Israelis.
No.
Not accepting the rule.
No. So if they're living alongside Israelis in Israel, they're accepting the Israeli rule, right?
So if they're in Israel,
if they live in Israel, or if they're living outside of Israel in Gaza.
Works.
No. Listen.
Let's say if they're in Israel, they're not accepting Israel's rule. Israel has political Arab parties. It has members of Knesset.
Okay, no. Listen, I don't mean that. I'm not talking about like their politics. I'm talking about the people that like the Fidei forces, whoever forces there are outside of what is the borders of Israel. You are saying the Sunnah for them, instead of continuing to fight, is to accept that Israel is here to stay and that they should just give in, right? That's what you're saying the Sunnah is.
I'm saying it's Sunnah for Muslims, to try and make peace with Jews. That's my statement.
Okay, no, but what's the way that you want them to make peace, all right? That's what I'm trying to get to.
However it comes about, whether it's treaties.
Look, here's the thing, right? Like, Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he did prefer peace, but you're talking the method of how you get to peace is very crucial here, right? Like, if you're talking about the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, or you're talking about Medina's constitution, or you're talking about what happened later on during the Battle of Ahzab, like the way you get to peace is just as important as peace itself. All right. So
I'll ask you a question tying into that.
Okay.
Are you saying that the only way that the Muslim will make peace with the Jew is if the Jew chooses to live under the Muslim as a dhimmi?
What I'm saying is, no, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay, perfect. So we agree on something.
I'm not saying that, because I live in a Western country, so I'm
talking about Israel. I'm not talking about in America or Europe. I'm talking about in land that was once under different khilafah, that was once under different caliphates, that has Masjid al-Aqsa. I'm saying in that land is the only way the Jew can have peace with the Muslim, by your worldview, is if he submits and becomes a dhimmi.
The thing is, it's a flawed question, because what you're forgetting is the flag itself has the Star of David on it. So the country is a Jewish country. It's not a secular country. All right, it is a secular country. Okay, it's called secular, but Benjamin Netanyahu and all those people, they're very, very focused on the fact that this is Jewish, and that the flag is Jewish, is obviously got a Jewish symbol on there as well. So they're very focused on that. So let's not play that game, right? Because you can say country.
It's a Jewish state. Absolutely, I agree with you. It's a Jewish state, but it's equality for all people that live. Muslims don't pay a jizya; they pay the same taxes as Jews. Yeah, they have complete equality.
Because the Jews don't have a system of government like that.
Arabs have sent Jewish prime ministers and Jewish presidents to jail, or singular, Jewish prime minister and a Jewish president. Yeah, Arab judges have done that. Yeah.
Okay.
That can't happen. That can't happen in the Khilafah. You know that a Jew cannot send the Caliph to prison.
They can't. No, of course not.
Exactly. So I'm saying I don't want to live in that system. I want to live in a system where Arabs and Jews are equal under the law. And an Arab can become prime minister, and a Jew can become prime minister.
You're saying, look, here's the thing, right? This is exactly what they will do. What colonizers will do is that they'll ignore, like, they'll say, hey, look, listen, that was completely Oh my God! You wanted to put that up there?
Oh, I didn't know. Sorry, how do we get that up? Sorry, apologies about that. And Ramadan Kareem to everybody. I was trying to show more comments in the thing. I really do apologize. That's not so. Just for me, today is a very, very beautiful day for the Jewish people. It's Yom Ha'atzmaut. It's the celebration of Israel's birthday. It's also Ramadan. So to all my Muslim fans, and we have a lot of them, Ramadan Kareem. But yeah, no, that's definitely not how I feel, and I do apologize to any Muslim.
No, that's fine. That's fine. It was just funny. I started laughing. But what I'm saying, oh my God, like no, I don't want to eat any pork tonight. Thanks. But here's the thing, right? I mean, he was not insulting you as well, though.
Yeah, but 100%. Like I genuinely believe the Sharia and Halakha are very, very close.
Okay.
I debate Muslims because I believe we can bring our people together and overcome the beef. The thing for me is I don't want to pay the jizya. I don't want to be a dhimmi. I want to be an equal. I want to be your brother, but I'll settle for a cousin. But I don't want to be under you.
Thing, right? Like the way Israel is built, it's not gonna happen the way it is right now. Right, because the thing is that you constantly you're redirecting the blame of it to the Arabs quite a lot, like throwing it back to the fact that there's not Jewish populations in other Arab countries, instead of just taking it and saying that yes, Israel did do a lot of, or the government of Israel and all these things, they did a lot of bad things to the Palestinians which are not justified. When you take that step and you actually concede that, that's when people stop being angry. And the comments I made, that's exactly what it is. It's just pure anger. Right, because no Israeli or any Jew will accept the fact that it goes both ways, or the fact that they actually did oppress the Palestinians quite a lot. Anyways, besides the point, what I'm saying is you're saying that it's the Sunnah, right? So what I'm asking you is find me a time in Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's life where he gave in to a higher, to a power beyond him, like a government power, whether it was like a federation or a tribe. When he gave when he gave into their needs completely at the expense of what was best for the Muslims.
So great question. So we both know that Muhammad made numerous treaties with surrounding states, yeah?
Yeah,
and he even stipulated when Muslims lived in those countries that weren't Muslim countries, that hadn't either been conquered or converted willingly to Islam. When Muslims did that, they followed the law of the land. Which is why you, someone who's living in America, are quite comfortable not trying to overthrow Biden or Trump, and you participate, I assume, in the democratic process, and you follow the laws of the land where they don't compromise Sharia, and you can still practice your faith. And so there are many instances throughout the Quran, throughout the Hadith, where Muhammad made peace with
He made peace. I'm asking when he made peace at the expense of what was best for the Muslims.
What do you mean by what's best for the Muslims? I mean, what's best for the Muslims is having more land. What's best for the Muslims is having more people convert to Islam. Yeah, these are things that are preferable to Islam, growing an empire. But he gave up on doing those things to make peace.
No, but I'm talking about not just, no, listen. If the Muslims outside of the borders of Israel accepted the fact that, Israel's here, what they're doing is that they're accepting the fact that their land was run over. Okay, because it happens all the time. The Israeli, the IDF, just a couple of days ago, there was a video of them sniping a kid in the eye with a rubber-covered bullet, and he was just in a shop. So when these things happen, listen, it was just a couple of days ago. I swear to God.
Yeah, Hebron. Yeah, in Hebron.
Listen, it was a Palestinian child, and he was just like that for no reason. He was literally in a shop. So when things like this happen, the obvious nature of a person is going to be to retaliate, right? And if they don't, and if they feel like whatever's happening, because the expansion continues, right? The expansion continues. I know people that actually stay there. They leave their homes wherever they are, and they go to the West Bank and they go to Gaza, and for a couple months a year, right? This happens there, and the fighting continues always. It's never stopping, right? So if the Muslims were to actually give that, just let go and be like, you know what, we accept the rule. That's at the expense of what is best for them, and it's at the expense of what their justice would be. All right, because you're talking about listen. It's not even about just about that either, right? It's about the fact that
let me just jump in there while you're thinking about that.
No, I'm not thinking about
it. I agree. The Muslims should do what's best for the Muslims. Jews should do what's best for the Jews. We agree on that. And humanity should do what's best for humanity. If you look around the world today, Muslims are being slaughtered. More than any other
we
people.
Knew it was
more
gonna
than
happen.
any
We knew
other
it was
people.
gonna happen. We knew it was gonna happen. That's
And,
fine. We already knew it
and
was
the
gonna
majority
happen.
of Muslims are being slaughtered by, unfortunately, their brothers, by other Muslims, by other sects of Islam. If you look at what's happening in Syria as an example, huge sectarian Islamic violence between Hezbollah, between Bashar al-Assad, between ISIS, between al-Nusra. There's many different factions fighting each other, all Muslims. Yeah.
Okay,
If Muslims want to hear me out. If Muslims genuinely cared about Muslims, of all the conflicts that are going on in the world, the Israel-Palestine conflict has the lowest death toll. Last year, less than 100 people were killed. Yeah? Less than 100 people. Compare that to the tens of thousands of people killed in Yemen, the thousands and thousands of people killed in Afghanistan, Syria. Like huge death tolls. If Muslims cared about Muslims and not, let's say, rephrase that. If Islamists cared about Muslims and not political Islam, not ideology, not conquest, I assure you, Palestine would be at the very bottom of the list. Because if you actually go to the West Bank, you actually see the conditions of people, because I go there, Walid. I'm assuming you haven't been there. Like when I go to Judea and Samaria, the West Bank, as you call it, I'm usually in a very cheap rental car. I'm overtaken by BMWs, Range Rovers, all with Palestinian plates on them. I got the worst car in Palestine, as you'd call it, when I visit there. Yeah, you visit Rawabi. It looks like a very affluent Jewish city. Very affluent Israeli city. Your understanding of what happens in Judea and Samaria is wrong. Gaza is worse, I agree. I agree with you, Gaza is much worse than the West Bank, much worse. But it's still nowhere, it's not comparable.
Oh, it's not
Yemen,
that bad. Is what
Syria,
you're saying. Look,
Lebanon. Lebanon. Do you know where Palestinians
okay.
are caged in a wall and have a terrible life? They can't buy property, they can't go in the normal education system, they don't have access to state healthcare. Lebanon, the Palestinians are a second-class citizen.
They're refugees.
Arabs in Israel, Palestinians in Israel have way more rights than in Lebanon. If you care for the Palestinians, why aren't you speaking about Lebanon? Why aren't you speaking about any other Syria? There were literally the Palestinians were ethnically cleansed from Yarmouk.
Who says I'm not? Who says I'm not?
Okay, I'm glad that you are. Then that's good. You've got integrity. If you're speaking out against Syria, if you're speaking out against Lebanon, if you're speaking out against all these states that oppress their Palestinians.
Well, I don't know anything about Lebanon, but Syria, yes. I don't know anything about Lebanon.
Google the Palestinians in Lebanon. It will break your heart. If you genuinely care about your Palestinian brothers, read how they live in Lebanon. And then compare that to an Arab who lives in Israel. An Arab in Israel has freedom to vote in the elections, can purchase property.
They're also not. They're accepting because they want people to accept the rule of Israel. Obviously, if they accept it and they live there, and they're gonna, it's completely different. You're talking about refugees versus like actual citizens. Like refugees.
Okay, what is a refugee then?
They're people that have escaped. Aren't they people that have escaped from
a refugee
from outside Israel?
Walid, am I a refugee?
I don't know. I don't know your citizenship status. I know anything. I don't know.
Explain to my audience what a refugee is.
So what happens is a lot of times during times of conflict is people will leave. They'll run away from where they're in danger and go to a different place. And then when they arrive at that place, they would be considered refugees because they need refuge.
Yeah, exactly, precisely. So if you're then, let's say you have a child. Let's take, is it Gigi or Gigi? How do you pronounce the name? Hadid. Gigi Hadid. I don't know. I'm not good with models. She's one of the richest models, most famous models in America. Yeah? Is she a Palestinian? She was born in America? Is she a refugee?
She was born in America. Why would she be a refugee?
She's got citizenship of America. She was born in America.
Okay, so you're saying that Palestinian people that are born in Lebanon are not given rights. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying they're not refugees. They never fled a war. Their grandparents.
Okay. So they grew up in Lebanon and they're not getting the right to vote or anything. That's what you're saying in Lebanon.
So if Lebanon oppresses their Palestinian citizens, that's not Israel's fault. Israel doesn't.
I'm not saying it's Israel's fault. I'm asking you a question.
Okay, sorry. I'm too confrontational. Apologies. So in Lebanon. So basically, what happened? Well, I accept. So my history will be slightly different to your narrative. In my narrative, in '48. The majority of Arabs fled. There were some expulsions. So Lod, Ramla, where there was conflict, and they did make peace, but then those that made peace were actually overthrown, and attacks were then launched from those cities, those towns on the Jews. In those unique cases, there were actually expulsions. So I will agree with you, there were some expulsions, but the majority of Arabs that fled the 48 war fled it. Like in Syria,
Yeah, because they didn't
most
have anything.
refugees from Syria fled.
There was no Palestinian government. There was no Palestinian army.
So,
what else would they have done? What else would they have done except run away?
So they left. For instance, in Haifa, the mayor, the Jewish mayor, there was a Jewish mayor and an Arab mayor. The Jewish mayor begged the Arab mayor, to tell his not his citizens, but his people not to flee Haifa, to stay, remain. He was literally begging him with tears in his eyes for the Arabs not to flee, because the Arab High Committee had told them to leave, and they threatened them with coercion, with violence, with death if they remained. So many Palestinians did flee. Many Arabs did flee the land. Yeah. And whether that was morally right or wrong, that's not this particular the conversation. What then happened was they fled, like most refugees, like my grandparents were refugees from Poland. They were escaping European persecution. When my grandfather, it was actually my grandfather, when he came to the UK, as an example, one of them came to the UK, he took on British citizenship. His son, my father, became a British citizen. Well, it was a British citizen.
You're going on a really long.
I was a British citizen. Neither me nor my father are refugees. We're British. Yeah, you're American. Yeah, yeah. You listening to your accent. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but you sound like you were born in America. I could be wrong. You could be born elsewhere. But if your parents fled conflict and you were born in America, you're not a refugee. You're an American, right? Can we agree on that?
Okay, look. Yes, I know what you're saying. You're saying is that people that are from Palestinian descent are born in Lebanon. They're not given the same rights. I said that. You're just going, like, I don't know. It's really long-winded.
No. I'm saying there's no such thing as 0.5% of Palestinians alive today that claim to be refugees were alive in 1948.
Okay. All right. So you're saying.
So I'm saying 99% of Palestinian refugees are not refugees. That's my statement. Change my mind.
Okay, I don't know enough to change your mind. I thought we were coming on here to argue about the Sunnah. That's why I didn't do anything. I was like, all right, we're gonna come on here and argue about Sunnah. If I knew it was you, like I said, I would have watched those videos, get it down real quick.
Okay, then you can be forgiven for not knowing that. So to bring it back, because you brought up the refugees, and I was just saying I don't believe the majority of Palestinian refugees today are refugees. To bring it back to actual suffering. Because if this comes back to suffering and making peace, that's what maybe we can agree with. So I'm saying the majority of Muslims that are suffering in the world today are not living in Israel, West Bank, Gaza. They're not living there. They're living elsewhere. They're in different struggles. They're in different conflicts. And overwhelmingly, the majority of Muslims I speak to are way more passionate about the plight of the Palestinians than they are about their brothers in Yemen, in the Central African Republic.
That's really?
Yeah, in my experience, yeah. It may be different in your experience, and you live in the community, you're part of the Ummah. I'm just an observer, a cousin, a relation.
No, from what I see, it's mostly Uyghurs, Rohingya, and it's more, that's the main focus.
So the Uyghurs is fantastic. Most Muslims, not most, but a lot of Muslims are now denying there's even a genocide happening to the Uyghur. It's crazy. Like if you go to electronic
it's insane. It's like the same people that would support Bashar al-Assad will say that there's nothing happening. Yeah, it's the same people. So like Shias. Anyways, I just had to say it. Anyways, look, here's the thing. We're not really getting like anywhere, and I kind of I'm in school, so I'm in university, so I do have things to do. I honestly be open to come back on here again, because I did, like I got some stuff from your side. I didn't really have a lot to say because I thought we were coming on here talking about something completely different, so it was interesting for me to just kind of listen. I took notes though.
So please read your notes. You've got my Facebook on my Instagram. Be in touch.
I got your Instagram, but I will most likely ask to come on here again because
and you'll be more than welcome. The thing I would ask for you, I opened with, and I'll read it again. Every single political leader who supports the military occupation of Palestine will burn. This is you. Yes. The day will come when Muslims will flood the streets of Israel, and we will make the streets into rivers of blood, and the parliament to ruins. We will behead your leaders in the public square.
Yes.
Having spoken, and I'm saying, I believe my position of making peace with Muslims, of Jews and Muslims sitting and coexisting in the land, that there being an Israeli state, there potentially being a Palestinian state. I'm open to that. But there is an Israeli state alongside many, 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 many Muslim states, throughout the neighborhood, like all their neighbors are Muslim. I'm saying I believe it is more sunnah. It is more in keeping with the tradition of Islam to strive for peace between these people than to oppress the Jew, to make the Jew live under you, to make the Jew be your dhimmi. And that's my point.
Do you have any knowledge of Islamic eschatology?
A small bit. I'm Jewish, so my
okay, so Islamic,
probably the same amount as you have of Jewish.
That was in reference to Islamic eschatology, because what in Islamic eschatology essentially what happens is, do you know Imam Mahdi or no?
Assume I know nothing. I know a little bit. Assume I know nothing.
All right, so Imam Mahdi, that's
Imam Mahdi. Sorry, I didn't hear. Yeah. I know the Mahdi, but to the audience, explain
exactly
who he is and the difference between.
So Imam Mahdi is essentially supposed to be. He's not a prophet or anything. He's just supposed to be like a leader that shows up, and then he unites the Arab world.
Yeah,
that is the case. And then after he unites the Arab world, and after there's like a big war and whatever, there's supposed to be, then the Antichrist comes. Yeah. And then when the Antichrist comes, the actual final battle for the Antichrist versus Jesus, Islam, is in Bayt al-Maqdis.
Yeah.
It's in Bayt al-Maqdis, this essentially means that people like Benjamin Netanyahu, people of that party, those people are not going to survive that. And this is in reference to Islamic eschatology.
Perfect. So I completely now we'll just very briefly elaborate on that for my audience. So one of the other comments you and I don't know if it's yours, just many of your friends were making, were that the Jews follow the Dajjal. Yeah, Jews in Israel follow the Dajjal. So the Dajjal is the Antichrist. And I'd love to know what your evidence for that is.
So in the hadith, the Prophet said that 70,000 Jews of Isfahan will follow him, right? So that
where is that?
Isfahan is in Iran, but listen.
How many Jews live in Iran today?
About 9,000. But here's the thing: that happens. The Dajjal comes after Imam Mahdi unites the Arab world, right?
There's not enough Jews there today for that to happen.
I know, but after Imam Mahdi unites the Arab world, what do you think the Arab world is going to do?
So no, but
this whole time, what you've been saying is that the Arab world is so against Israel. So if a man comes and unites the Arab world, what is the first thing the united Arab world is going to do?
To that point, but just before, because you're talking about uniting, because it's also really critical to this conversation.
Yeah.
What percentage of the Muslims that are around today are actually real Muslims that won't be on the wrong side?
Well, can't give no percentage on that, because the reality is that when he comes, the first people that are going to fight him are going to be Arabs, that are going to be Muslims. The first people that fight him, because you're not going to be able to.
So how do you know you're not on the wrong side?
How do I know?
How many Muslims are there in the world? Quick question.
Well,
how many Muslims?
1.7 billion, something like that.
Yeah. So there's 1.7 billion Muslims. The majority of them, according to the hadith, are going the wrong way. And you're saying that 70,000 Jews, according to your religion, yeah? You're saying because 70,000 Jews you believe are going to follow the Dajjal and are going to fight Jesus in the end days.
It's not just. Listen. It's not
compared
just
to millions and millions and millions and millions of Muslims.
Thing. Listen. It's an anecdotal thing where it's like 70,000 Jews will, like, in the beginning will follow him because he's supposed to come from the east, right? That's when he's supposed to come. But it's not like that. Those are his only followers, right? Because what the hadith says is that Muslims.
Where do you get that from? Where do you get that from? That's not his only followers.
Because listen. So when in the hadith it also says that Muslims will go to the Dajjal and they will think that they're gonna fight him, but then they'll join him. So what it shows is that he will have a growing following, right? It won't just be that.
But that's Muslims, not Jews.
No, I know, but it's not. Listen, what I'm saying is that it doesn't necessarily just have to be those 70,000 people.
But you hear how crazy
who's waiting for the Messiah? Who's waiting for the Messiah?
You're saying that Israelis worship the Antichrist because of one hadith.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
You said that in the comments.
Fine. Show me the comment that I said that.
Okay, I'll read exactly what you said. You said, just let me find it.
Was it me or was it absolutely halal?
I think it was you. Maybe it wasn't you. Absolutely halal. No, sorry, it wasn't you. It was absolutely halal.
It was absolutely halal. Yeah, so it wasn't me, exactly. So if you want to talk about that, you can talk about that.
No, that's fine. Apologies. I don't want to put words into your mouth. There's enough that you said that I take issue with.
Yeah, there's enough. There's enough you can take an issue with. Yeah, exactly. So
So,
what that
so
shows is
my
that his
point.
following is growing. His following grows. That's all it shows, right? And I didn't say anything about worship. I said follow.
Okay, follow the Dajjal. So there's no evidence that any Jew follows anything that resembles the Dajjal today. Yeah,
I didn't say that they do. I said they will. I was talking
they
about
will. Okay, so that's
eschatology.
fine. So
Yeah.
your entire argument is based on you believe that Jews in Israel, based
My
on
entire
really
argument,
nothing.
No. My entire argument is not based on that. This is the thing we're adding on at the end. We're just talking about this.
Okay, all right, then let's park
You're
that. Let's
talking about
park
my
that. It's a
comment.
tangent.
Yeah.
Let's ignore the Dajjal. You just raised it. Let's ignore the Dajjal. Let's ignore the end days, and let's just deal with
No,
today.
you said in my comment, right? And you were asking like why I was saying that. So I just said that it's from Islamic eschatology. That's where the comment's coming from. All right. Obviously, if I'm angry, that's what I'm going to refer to first. I'm not going to say anything else besides that.
Okay.
Anyways,
so,
you said 40. You said 30, 40 minutes. It's almost an hour, man.
Okay, perfect. It's been fantastic, Waleed. Please do your homework, and inshallah, next time you come on the channel, you will have reconsidered your position on beheading Jews in the streets, Jewish leaders, because that doesn't sound very moderate. It actually probably scares most of your American citizens, fellow American citizens.
Well, a lot of people don't like Benjamin Netanyahu here. Even a lot of people don't like Benjamin
school.
Netanyahu. A lot of people don't like Benjamin Netanyahu. So I don't think it would rub a lot of people the wrong way.
Look, I don't like Abu Mazen, but I don't want to see him beheaded in the streets. I don't want to see Ramallah flooded with Jews, bloodthirsty Jews calling for Abu Mazen's head.
You need to find someone you dislike enough or hate enough to be able to do that too.
No, Abu Mazen literally pays people to kill my people, so I've got I'm not that fond of him.
All right, so then, well, I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't want to see it then.
Because
it's not like the Jewish doctrine is against that.
It seems bloodthirsty, and for me, thirsting for blood is not in my sunnah in Judaism, and from the Muslims I learn with, it's not in their sunnah either. It's not in the Deen of Islam.
It's not thirsting for blood. It's thirsting for justice.
No, there's a difference. That's bloodthirsty. You're literally talking about blood in the streets. Flooding the streets with Muslims who are going to behead people. That's pretty bloodthirsty. And probably very scary for any professor that teaches you in an American university. I can understand why you would wear the face mask if you're saying that on camera. I do understand that. But please do your research. And inshallah, next time you come back, you will have changed your position on beheading Jewish leaders in the streets. Hopefully, inshallah.
We'll see.
All right. Thank you, everyone that's watching. If you'd like to see more videos like this, recommend who we can debate, who we can talk to. If you'd like to support the work, head over to Patreon, head over to our merch store where you can purchase the merchandise. Waleed, if there's any social media you'd like to link them to for you, feel free to shout it out now.
I'm good. Thanks.
All right, good stuff. Thank you. To all the Muslims, Ramadan Kareem. To all the Jews, happy birthday. Take care.